Hello and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and I am back from San Diego Comic-Con with so much fun stuff for you. You know, when you think of San Diego Comic-Con, books might not be your top of mind, but it is a pretty big chunk of what's going on in San Diego, and a lot of it's either book inspired or they're comics and all of that, as well as manga and just romance. Like, there's so much bookish stuff going on that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to give you some sneak peeks at what was going on at San Diego Comic-Con.
So I have to take the opportunity to ask you if we will ever see 1602 as a film or a series.
What a lovely question. I don't know, that's up to Marvel. I asked about 8 years ago, I said to them, look, wouldn't it make a great film or TV series or something? And the people at the time were like, no, it will never happen. But those people have gone, and new people are there. And I would love to see a 1602 movie or TV series. I think it would be great.
The field was wide open. I mean, Amazon bought the rights to basically 10,000 years of Middle-earth history and then said, all right, guys, let's take all comers and see what you have to say. And we felt that the Second Age is freaking awesome. And it's Tolkien's amazing untold story that is so iconic with the forging of the Rings of Power. It's the rise of the Dark Lord Sauron, right? It's the rise and fall of Tolkien's Atlantis, the greatest kingdom of men ever created, Numenor. And then finally the last alliance of elves and men to come together and defeat Sauron. Well, almost defeat, and then the ring survives, so evil will continue into another age. But that story struck us as one that could really live up to and match the grandeur of what we knew the canvas was going to be, because it's going to be a 50-hour story for the beginning. So if we're going to tell 50 hours of story, we want to really make it worth it.
Just as fans and as viewers and lovers of Middle-earth and Tolkien, we didn't want to do like a side thing or a spin-off or the origin story of something else. Like, we wanted to find a huge Tolkienian mega epic. Amazon were wonderfully crazy enough to say, yes, let's do that.
And really, guys, like, no BS, they have let us make the show we want to make. I came to the party through the Jackson films and then did the deep dives on books, Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, the whole 9 yards. And fell in love to the point where Lord of the Rings became part of my personal canon, not just of literature, but just of life. It's something I go to in the biggest, most difficult moments of life. You know, Tolkien makes its way into eulogies for loved ones who have died. Tolkien makes its way into birth announcements. My son, Ethan Everest Payne, on his birth announcement, it also said, Alien Taur Enora. Tolkien speaks the language of the soul, and it's there for us in those moments.
It's a really rare thing for an author or a director or anyone making, collective art to truly create an optimistic work of art, and that's really something to be valued, and that's what this is. Because so often it becomes, right, like Hallmarky or saccharine, and Lord of the Rings is not that. It's born of pain and struggle and evil, and still comes out at the end saying there's a reason for hope, and friendship and bravery are greater powers than evil. And that's something that I think we just hold really dear.
The Elvish is the language of light. There are no casual sounds in Elvish. Pure sounds.
Nicely said. Just as elitist as Gil Galad himself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it's about beauty and light, and
Can you do the poem? Can y'all do the poem?
Yeah. Gil Galad was an elven king. Anybody?
The harpers sadly sing. Last. Anyone?
The last whose realm was fair and free, between the mountains and the sea. His sword was long, his lance was keen. His shining helm afar was seen. The countless stars in heaven's field were mirrored in his silver shield. But long ago he rode away, and where he dwelleth none can say. For into darkness fell his star, say it with me, in Mordor. where the shadows are.
One of the things that I learned as soon as I picked up The Hobbit, my mum was like, "You're reading that? Elvish is based on Welsh." So I've always been so grateful for Tolkien for kind of respecting the language of my country and loving it. So I felt very lucky to be Welsh to learn it.
Disa, the first female dwarf that we have ever seen on any screen. The first female dwarf that we have ever seen in the works of Tolkien. And I have the honor to host that revolutionary moment. She is so relatable in so many ways. You know, she's a mother, she is a wife to Durin. She's a force of nature and a joy, and
well, you yourself
also,
are, I know, because tell the people about your audition. Because this is as tough as a dwarf.
Okay, I auditioned for this role when I was 2 days away from giving birth. So my daughter was engaged, midwives on speed dial, and J.A. Bayona having to hoist me out of a chair from my camera test at the time. And then I got the call to say that you will be flying the torch for this incredible character when my daughter was 5 days old. And then I stepped onto a plane with my family when she was 8 weeks old. And if you see in this image over here, can you see the stitching on the shoulders of the costume? That unravels so I could feed my child between takes. That is the power of a female dwarf. She is a necessity. We get to see the dwarven culture for the first time, you know. Khazad-dûm is alive and in its prime. And for any great success story of any world or race, there are females, and here I am.
The honest to God truth is, you know, there's no one who can put more pressure on us than ourselves, like, because this means so much to us. Getting this right means so much to us. We've been the fans who've been disappointed, maybe many times over, and you know, we didn't want to disappoint you guys, and hopefully lots of other people. And you know, that's a hard thing to live with, and constantly feel like, oh my God, is it good enough? It's not good enough. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. It needs to be better. And that's what we've lived for 4.5 years. It's sort of nice to take a moment and actually like celebrate it here with you all. Thank you.
And there was
meaning hobbits or?
Oh no, all very inclusive.
Not me. I wasn't old enough to get in.
Who's there in spirit? So yeah, there was this one karaoke night that we were with J.A. And the showrunners were there as well. And J.A. puts on Suddenly Seymour and just like hands me the second mic without saying anything. So we just sing together, and I think there's like a video somewhere of the showrunners just like, and then yeah, next day I get a call from Patrick, and he's just like, "You want to sing in the show?" And I was like, "Yeah." So now I'm singing in the show, and JD wrote some incredible lyrics, and I got to work with Bear McCreary, who, as you just heard, is incredible. And so yeah, it was great.
When you think of California, you might think of enjoying a good book on the beach. It's a little harder when you're at San Diego Comic-Con because there's just so much to do at the convention center that you don't really have the time to get away from the water unless you plan for an extra day on your trip. So Audible brought the beach to the convention center. We've got sand, we've got a nice area to rest and recharge, and of course, Audible books to listen to. One of the fun things over here at Audible Beach is these awesome giant sand sculptures. They've got a couple of them. They said it took more than 150 tons of sand and several days for artists to create these giant pieces of sand art that will be gone here in just a bit.
that were really sort of safe hideouts for you as children? Where were the books where you went and found that sort of connection and safety?
Magic Treehouse. I'm getting like a little giddy, like sort of like Julie Andrews giddy, because as a kid, yeah, those books were everything. And now as an adult, I have like a tremendous amount of respect for her as an author and creator.
They are getting a revival as graphic novels.
Very
They're all
well
getting
deserved.
graphic adaptations, and they're so beautiful.
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to lie?
I want both.
Okay, so if I'm lying, I would say the Wizard of Oz series, because it was really important to me, but not paramount. I think the Wizard of Oz had a lot of interesting kind of subversions of what we expect. Like you have a male character suddenly turn into a female 3/4 through the book, you know, and reveal themselves as a woman in disguise. And there were all these kind of just like blurring of lines that I was really into. But what really got me as a tween and teenager was Anne Rice's books, specifically Anne Rice's erotica, which I discovered in I think it was a Barnes & Noble or Borders or something when I was like 13, and I think I was in that bookstore reading that book the entire afternoon. And I just felt like I'd never seen language do such things. I'm sure my body was participating. But I think there was something about the illicitness and the combination of taboo plus perfect writing, which made me think that kids and teenagers can handle just sort of a lot if you're willing to really kind of find the sensuality and the intensity in language. So I think that became an important part when I wrote School for Good and Evil, and also even when we were designing the movie of, you know, not being afraid to meet kids and teenagers where they are at today in 2022, which is why it will feel so much different than Harry Potter, because it's a lot edgier and bolder and more on the edge in terms of what you expect from a magic school. In the realm of fairy tales, which is where I operate, with the School for Good and Evil, you could go back to the Grimms, and I feel like the Grimms had no audience. It was that ultimately they were writing for 8 to 88. They were sort of survival guides to life, and they sort of could veer from horror to comedy to something quite sort of about adolescent rite of passage to kind of like, you know, intense romantic relationships between adults all in the course of a couple of sentences. And I wanted that feel. It was very hard to find in movies growing up because I always felt like it was either a kid's movie or an adult movie, same with books. That's why I thought Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire was so interesting, because it felt like a YA novel, but it had this quite intense sort of subcurrent to it. Or a movie like The Princess Bride, which kids think is for kids. And so with the School for Good and Evil movie for Netflix, you know, when we were working with the director Paul Feig on it, we wanted that sort of Princess Bride feeling. We just released the first poster today, and I think you can feel it in that poster of something that's for every possible audience, because it really tries to capture a Grimm's fairy tale versus a Disney fairy tale. But I think sometimes what you actually end up happening, because over the years, kids always ask like, you know, where does this character come from? Where does that character come from? And you realize that what actually you're doing as a writer is fragmenting your soul into different pieces. So like my kind of behavior might be one character, my conscience might be another character, my masculinity might be another character. So like every piece of me gets sort of subdivided, and ultimately your books become kind of family therapy. Sort of your characters having these conversations amongst themselves, trying to work out these different strands of you, and ultimately trying to find sort of cohesion and whole. And when you do that, especially in the series, you sort of wake up one day and you realize that you're done with it. And that's sort of where I got after 10 years of School for Good and Evil, where I was like, okay, I think all those pieces finally integrated.
It's like a Horcrux.
Among the bookish things to do here at San Diego Comic-Con is the Gray Man Experience. This is a book that is now being turned into a Netflix movie starring Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling that's hitting Netflix this weekend. And we're gonna go inside and do the training experience, which is based on an epic scene in the film.
The program will consist of 3 training modules. It's gonna test your skill, your strength, and your speed.
We just went through our first training part where we've got this highly confidential data chip that we have to keep in our hands at all times as we go through and test our speed, our skill, and our strength. So this could be intense.
Welcome to the skill training module. You have 30 seconds to unlock the skill training hard doors. Your time begins.
Well, we made it through with our confidential data chips.
I am not a runner. I look like a turtle. But in my defense, I am kind of a turtle with my camera equipment, so it's fine. But we made it through. We only failed the first module.
We technically didn't fail. We asked afterwards.
We did it right. It glitched and didn't open the door for us. But the strength one was fun because we just burst through those doors. But yeah, great main experience. It was a good old time. We're looking forward to what's next here at San Diego.
Any favorite dragons? Any?
Caraxes is the best dragon.
Meles.
He is the best dragon.
Meles is the best dragon. He's definitely the best
He's the most
dragon.
handsome.
Most wonderful flyer, the most beautiful.
Well, that was really important for the show because there are 17 of them at the height of this. So it was really important to, as you said, differentiate them not only in the way they looked, but the way they behaved and acted and the way they bonded with their riders. And Miguel and I think that was one of the earliest things that we started concepting on. This is probably about a year before we started filming. And it was a very organic process. We worked with a couple of conceptual designers that we just went through this very iterative process. And of course, George, who writes very detailed books, gave us the gift of specifying color and size and age. So we really took all of those things that are given to us in the book and then tried to extrapolate them and add personalities to them. Like Caraxes is very cantankerous and agitated, and he's always moving and flexing. He never sits still, much like his rider. We built out from Cyrax and Caraxes and Vagar, the biggest dragon certainly alive right now, Behemoth, and then went on to the second tier and third tier dragons. We've designed dragons that you won't even see yet in season 1 because we're having such a great time with the designers. So I'm very excited to show. You've seen some teases in the trailer, but there's much yet to come, and I think you guys will like it a lot.
There's always this tendency to simplify. Oh, there are too many characters. And when Game of Thrones first came out, some of the reviews were people who were professional television reviewers. So many characters, I couldn't keep track of them, But people did learn to keep track of them. I don't want to underestimate the intelligence of the audience or the readers. You can keep track of them. You don't have to combine characters and eliminate characters. The audience is more sophisticated than sometimes people making television assume, and that's one of the great things about working for HBO is they're willing to tackle things that are a little more challenging than you would get at the over-the-air networks or some other things.
I think painting in the lines that you have point A and point C, but you don't really know what point B was, and that's the fun of the invention of the show. But to me, the most challenging thing is just the sheer amount of time that the story covers, because it's the story of a generational war. So it was figuring out how to structure it in such a way that we could move people through this very complex timeline in a very simple way, so that people didn't get lost. And I think we've done a pretty good job. But that was certainly a brain bender for the writers and I. And thank you, Sarah Hess, who's somewhere in the audience, for saving our bacon on that.
I always believed in the most interesting characters are great characters, like all the human beings I've ever met and read about who are capable of generosity and love and doing good, and then the next week they do something selfish and bad, and we all have things to be proud of, we all have things to be ashamed of, and to my mind, I'll quote once again William Faulkner, who in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech said, "The only thing that's worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself," and that's something I've always taken as a mantra here, that all of these characters, have good in them, have evil in them, and it's a matter of what choices they make. And I like the fact that the readers of Fire and Blood divided as to who actually is the hero and who actually is the villain, and I hope the viewers of the show will have the same issues here. We probably should have seated this audience with greens on one side and blacks on the other.
We're not there yet, George.
Okay.
We're very united right now. The crowd is very united. Everybody is very happy.
For Alicent, we had so much creative freedom, like all of us as a group, including Millie, and
Reese as well to sort of make up this whole backstory to her. Obviously when we find Alison, she doesn't have a mother, and there was some gaps that we had to fill, and so to sort of figure it all out, I just started journaling, and with the advice of Miguel and Ryan, I managed to come up with some form of backstory, and it proved to be very, very useful. So I think that ties into the family thing as well, is that there's a lot of Alison's family that you don't see, but for the relationship between Alison and Otto, family is such a key word, because it's all about bloodline. I mean, that's kind of what the show's all about. So.
Is there anything you could share that you found through that process?
I think it just gave me a deeper understanding of Alison. I think she's so multifaceted, there's so many layers to her. I think lots of people are expecting her to be the villain of the show already, but I think bringing her in younger, there was a lot more to explore. I think we were saying earlier as well that we didn't really talk to our older counterparts because there's such a huge character progression for both Alison and Rhaenyra. I've never had the freedom to be able to create a whole human being like this before, so it was so much fun being able to go so in depth with her.
Yeah, it's quite a complicated relationship, but I sort of hope that me and Paddy found a lot of depth and a lot of richness in the work that we did. But really, everything is about his brother for Damon. Yeah.
I mean, me and Matt had a lot of High Valerian scenes together. A lot. Which was fun. Did anybody else speak? Paddy?
I had one line.
Yeah.
I think it's been cut. Let me try and remember it. It's something like Skorki dosos eldrizo dromon tomepse unerati la dixon cortas.
We're always nervous at the beginning because you know, these books, these characters are like my kids, and when you give your kid to people for adoption, you wonder how they will be treated. Will they be, you know, will you recognize them when they come back to you and all that? But I've been very, very fortunate here. I think Ryan has done a great job of adapting the books so far.
1, 2, 3.
Better luck next time, guys.
You pick it up then.
You gotta pick it up yourself. I get. Whoa!
What?
Magic.
When I was 12 years old, I fell in love with it then, because one of the things that I discovered was that the stage was in fact the safest place I had ever been. And that feeling of confidence and assurance and safety has never left me. And as time has gone by, I have found that I have been able to take more risks. And this was a risk for all of us. But we embraced it boldly and passionately and with belief, and that is what made all the difference. I realized that I was beginning to experience Jean-Luc Picard to a point where I didn't know where he began and Patrick Stewart left off.
Wow.
We were blending, and as the episodes and the seasons wore on, and then the movies, I found that Patrick became more and more of it, and I was trusting myself to have Jean-Luc Picard inside me, so that I didn't have to plan or plot or premeditate. What would Jean-Luc Picard do?
H. You have been warned. The DC universe will never be the same again.
My name is Mason.
Hi Mason, what's your question?
I wanted to know if when Mr. Rock got the job for Black Adam, did Kevin Hart ever get jealous?
That's good. You know what? What's your name?
Mason. Mason.
Mason. But well, hold on one second. I'm going to get to your question in a second. But Mason, buddy, that was a great question. Thank you. The truth is, yes, Kevin Hart gets jealous of everything. But also, I'm pretty good with height. You're already taller than Kevin Hart. That's a great question.
Who would win in a fight, Black Adam or Superman?
Should tell him. Well, look, you know, that's a great question, Luke. Don't threaten me with a good time, because I'm going to answer that question. Well, I will say, as you guys know, because we're all in deep with this mythology, and it's been the age-old question of who would win in a fight between Black Adam and Superman. Pound for pound, they're pretty close. I guess it probably all depends on who's playing Superman. I will just say that. I'll leave it at that. I will leave it at that, and we'll just go with that one.
My question is, when is Shazam going to face Black Adam, and will he do it alone or with his family?
Next question. No idea. No idea.
You guys are just keep trying with those fight questions.
They're just can't. Yes. It's, well, Scott is pretty pleased with himself and his role in saving the universe. You'll just have to wait and see. He wanted to know if we got the van fixed. So Scott's been kind of cooling out. He's been busy at work, ish, with a little book. And I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
Exactly 10 years ago this week, I went and I pitched the movie to Kevin and Lou, and then had a very uncomfortable...
I'd say it's been a good 10 years, James.
What?
Good 10
And back then, you know, it was the beginning of this journey. I fell in love with these characters. They aren't really superheroes. They're sort of outer space adventures, but really they're just a bunch of oddballs and outcasts and weirdos like a lot of us. They save the universe a couple times, but really what they do is they save each other. And when I started telling that story, I had sort of an end in sight. Not perfectly, I didn't have it all mapped out perfectly, but I knew where we were going with Rocket, with Quill, even with Nebula and Mantis and the other characters that hadn't quite shown up yet. And this is the end of that story. I'm sorry.
We love them.
Some stories have an end. Doesn't mean everybody dies.
You see him, we're legitimately choked up backstage watching what we did. You know, like watching what we do, and it's because, you know, we fucking care. I'm sorry, but like, we do. And like, we care. And it extends to all of us. And it is the most beautiful thing to be able to work on something creatively where your colleagues are all on the same page, where let's make something beautiful that people will respond to. I can't ever ask for anything more in my career. And it's just been absolutely wonderful. And I love all of you guys, sincerely.
I'm truly, truly grateful. Honestly, pretty surreal to have ever even stepped on the Guardian set. Huge admirer of everybody on this stage, genuinely, and the franchise from the outside looking in. I was absolutely terrified, but I was kind of welcomed into the family and couldn't have been treated better by these folks. They are such wonderful people. They're every bit as nice as they are talented. And I'm also really grateful that there was an appetite for Adam from the fans, you know, and James and Kevin and everyone at Marvel gave me the opportunity, and I'm super, super grateful to be here.
Is all the motivation I need to move forward and create the perfect species.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Evolution.
I can't wait to dissect all of you and see what I can learn.
To be standing with a project that came from so much love. Every single day on set, from every single participant, behind the camera, in front of the camera, with the words, with everything. It's a labor of love. And I have so much gratitude to be able to be a part of it and share it with all of you. So, love.
And seeing this audience is reminding me of the times I went to see Black Panther. I saw it 3 or 4 times in Ghana, I saw it in America, I saw it in England, and there's something very unique that the movie does to the audience. Their energy is so unfamiliar to me, and I think it's got something to do with a black superhero padded out by a clan of black superheroes and what that kind of does for black people. So for me, I just feel really special. Seeing the drummers and the dancers just reminds me of what an honor it was to support this cast in the second, iteration of Black Panther, to be a supporting role to a very sensitive and beautiful and delicate process. Yeah.
There is so much bookish stuff happening at San Diego Comic-Con. I couldn't get to all of it. I don't know that any human possibly could because there's just so much happening all at the same time. I hope that little sneak peek gave you a little motivation to try to get in the future year and check it out if it's something that you didn't think that you would want to. But trust me, it's absolutely worth it. It is so much fun to be just surrounded by people who all love the same stuff that you do, and just all the instant friends that you make in lines. If you like this content and other bookish content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything coming your way from this channel. I'm really enjoying making this content. I hope you're enjoying it too, so hit that like button. Until next time, thanks for watching.